Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome to the second live stream of the day. This is the Hunter clinic that I'm participating in with SSO TIP. I believe there was a staff member here a moment ago, but I'm not sure where they went. Anyways, SSO TIP is a realistic... Excuse me, hold on. Okay, sorry, I had a little bit of something in my throat. Anyways, SSO TIP is a realistic roleplay organization, and SSO TIP stands for the Star Stable Thoroughbred Incentive Program. I will have links to them in the description of this video, so please be sure to check them out if you're interested in realistic roleplay, competitions, and events. Today I am here, oops, I just realized I need to be wearing a different shirt. Okay. Let's see. So we're doing a flat class today, I believe. We're going to talk about the divisions as well as doing a mock flat class. So I did get permission from the server owners to go ahead and stream. So we'll be here for a bit, and I think I will mute myself for a majority of the stream. But I do need to mute myself right now anyways, because I need to finish up my lunch. So just hang tight, everybody. You guys can hang out in the chat, and I'll try to answer your questions and things like that. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and mute, and we'll begin the clinic very shortly. I'm not hosting the clinic, by the way, just to make it very clear.
Right, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started with our clinic. So this is going to be broken into two halves. I have a PowerPoint with some of our judging guidelines, some screenshots from our score sheets and stuff like that. So we are going to start off mostly with me just sharing my screen to show you this stuff. And then once we are done with that, what we're going to do is we're going to do a mock flat class, but instead of it being judged like normal, what we're going to do this time is, and hopefully this will help you guys out a little better with flat stuff. But what we'll be doing is instead of me marking things down on the sheet, I will be going by horse color, and then like, I guess for the duplicates, I'll go by what you're wearing. But I will actually tell you like what kind of things and like mistakes I'm seeing, because I found that that's a little easier for you guys to be able to know like when you're too close to someone, because I know it looks different on your screen. So, but of course, if no one wants, or sorry, if someone does not want to participate in that part and kind of have like mistakes called out like that, you're more than welcome to hang out on the side and just watch. So yeah, I am gonna go ahead and get my screen all set up to share with you guys. All right. So you guys can go ahead and start looking at my screen. For those of you that are just now joining us, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation at the beginning, just to go over some of our judging guidelines and stuff like that. and then I will do a little mock flat class. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So this kind of PowerPoint is going to go over, and if you guys have questions at any point during, feel free to put them in the clinic chat, as I am tabbed out of Star Stable right now. But you guys are having to watch this on Discord anyway, so hopefully that'll be easier. So anyway, what we're going to go over today is we're going to go over fences classes, how the judges are supposed to position themselves and how that helps. I know you guys probably get a kick out of watching the judges run across the arena like crazy, but there is a method to the madness. So we'll just briefly explain that. Then we will do a lot of explaining about the score system, and you guys will actually get to look at an example of an over fences score sheet, and I can answer questions about that as well. And then we will finish off going over fences classes by reviewing Hunter Derby and Metal, because they are classes that have some special rules to them. For under saddle classes, again, we'll go over judge positioning. We'll go over the score sheet as well as the scoring system. We'll go over special classes. So that'll be for under saddle, equitation on the flat, and pleasure. And then at the very end, we'll just do a little bit of review about dress code. So we'll be going to the website for that. But I will also give you a little bit of detail about how we score dress code as well. Um, and then any special requirements for these like special classes, like for example with Hunter Derby, you have to wear a shad belly for that class. So yep, so this is our overview. Hopefully everyone who is gonna make it is here at this point, so you don't miss anything. If you guys want as well, I can post this PowerPoint somewhere, if you would like to come back and look at it afterwards. But all right, we're gonna go ahead and actually get started. All right, so starting off with over fences. Um, what we tell our judges is we have them either position themselves as close to the jump as possible, or line themselves up behind the rider, so that they can see the rider's approach to the fence. Ideally, if they can, they want to try and be right next to the jump, because I have seen that that is the best way to judge straightness and then also how centered a rider is. But as long as they feel like they can adequately judge that, um, they're good to go. The one strong rule about that is they should never ever cross in front of or through a rider, because, um, as you guys probably would think, that is incredibly distracting while you're trying to do your round. So that is why I know some people have asked why we don't. Oh goodness. Yeah, sometimes our photographers will go on foot and hide inside of jumps. But uh, yeah, they really should not be running in front of you. Um, but that's the reason why, like, we've had some people ask um, why we don't judge on foot. And we physically can't make it to all of the jumps just running on foot, because our characters are not fast enough. So unfortunately, we do have to kind of sacrifice a little bit of the realism aspect, but I've found that it gives more precise scores, more accurate scores. So getting into kind of the main bit of this. Um, Each fence on an over fences course, or hunter or equitation over fences course, is worth 10 points. So you start with 10 points per fence, and you lose points based on mistakes. Um, and you can kind of see this next bullet point addresses, oh, sorry, this next bullet point addresses some of that. Then what we do is we average those scores together to get a final score. And of course, highest score wins for over fences classes. So this can kind of help you interpret your scorecards a little bit as well when you get those. So a 10 is an absolutely perfect jump, like nothing you could possibly change about it. 10s are not given out very frequently. So if you do get a 10 on a scorecard, you should feel really good about it because they are, yes, they're very hard to achieve. Between an 8 and a 9 is normally the average fence score. So it's like mostly centered, mostly straight, with a pretty smooth approach, but maybe you're a little bit off to the right, a little bit off to the left, maybe turned a little bit over the jump. But 8 and 9 are still pretty decent fence scores. When you start to get to 7 and below is when you are starting to get a little crooked, you're a little off center. Um, we're seeing like horse head movement over the jump, or your approach was not ideal. Generally, the rule for making sure your approach is really good is you want to make sure that you're giving yourself the most amount of time um, between like your turn to face the jump and when you are actually jumping the jump. So that's why, like for regular hunter rounds, you really want to try and be like pointed at the center of the jump when you come off the rail to jump the fence instead of turning and then adjusting. You would lose some points for that on your approach. And then, of course, 4 and under would be really crooked, really off center, basically jumping it like a jumper course or jumping it at the incorrect gait. So if there's a trot jump marked and you jump it at a canter or an extended canter, then this is probably the range where you would score. And then if you do refuse a fence, um, I'm sure most of you know from our rule book, but if you do refuse a fence on an over fences course, you do need to come back and jump it again, or you are considered off course. Um, and even if you do circle back around, jump it perfectly, refusals will get you an automatic fence score of 1. So the name of the game there is just making sure you actually get over that fence and don't end up being off course by just skipping it. Circles are something that we get questions about a lot. And maybe before we do the flat class, I can show you guys an example um, of an ideal circle. Um, Typically, what we see a lot of is they're really big. You guys really should generally be trying to keep your circles to like a third of the arena. Obviously, in some arenas, that's not possible just because of fences that are in the way, but that is the ideal size that they should be. They don't need to be a perfect circle. They can be, a little more oval, but there shouldn't be any corners in it. That's mainly what we're looking for. So if you have like corners in your circle, definitely not ideal. So again, this is kind of the scale there. We also are looking for you to go directly from the trot into the extended canter or working canter. Um, Usually, because of screen delay, you will see some canter steps. I normally do not take off points for anyone who has like just one canter step because sometimes it takes a little while for the animation to reset. But if you are doing more than like, I guess I should change this to 2 to 3 canter steps. But we just want to see you going as quickly as you can from the trot to the extended canter without canter steps if possible. And then, of course, judged on smoothness, how well shaped it is, and all of that. And you want to make sure that you are picking up your extended canter as far away as you like safely can from the fence. Obviously, you don't want to come into the arena and start extended cantering right away, but you also don't want to wait until like you're 6 strides out from the first fence to pick up that extended canter. So I don't know if you guys can see these numbers. They're really tiny, but this is actually all of this stuff is on our website under the staff judging guidelines button at the very bottom of I believe it's at the bottom of our rulebook page. But this is just sort of a general guideline for how your jumps are scored. So the yellow lines would be -3 from your fence score, and then the red ones would be -5. So this one deals with how centered you are. Obviously, if you are perfectly dead center on the jump, then you'll lose 0 points for that. And then, assuming you are completely straight over the fence as well, you'll lose 0 points. So your fence score there would be 10. So it's 5 points for how centered you are, and then 5 points for how straight you are. So even if you jump perfectly centered, and if you're, a little bit crooked, you'd only lose 3 points. So that would leave you with a fence score of 7. Um, let's see. And just a reminder to some of you, if you joined a little bit late, if you have any questions during this, please feel free to put them in the clinic chat, as I am tabbed out of Star Stable right now to show you guys this PowerPoint. So yeah, so moving on to turn scores. Obviously, these are pretty self-explanatory. They do kind of come into play with Derby and the medal, which we will talk about later. There are inside turns that are expected for some of those. So you will lose points. If inside turns are expected for a class, then you will lose points by not doing them. But you're also judged on how smooth they are and everything like that. So obviously that would be if you're doing a regular hunter round, you don't want to do inside turns. You want to just make sure you're coming off the rail really smoothly, pointing right at the center of the jump, and that'll give you a turn score of 10. And you want to try not to wiggle before jumps as well, because that will affect your turn score. Then for all of our lines that involve striding, you will get 10 points if you get the correct number of strides. You'll get a score of 6 for your stride score. If you add or subtract 1 stride, you'll get a score of 3 if you add or subtract 2 strides. And then if you add or subtract 3 or more strides, then you would get a score of 0 for that stride score. We have never had that happen. I don't know if that's even possible, but good to have it there. And I'm sure you guys have noticed when you've competed with us that the judge will kind of run up to you before you start your round. And at that point, they are inspecting you both for dress code and for your horse. Oh, that was supposed to be level. I typed this too fast. Anyway, pretend this says horse level, because these basically say the same thing. Oh well. But pretend this says horse level. You will lose 1 point from your score for each level your horse is under 15. And we don't do that to be mean. We do that because it is harder to do a nice hunter round on a maxed horse. So we don't want to give an advantage to people who are riding, level 1 horses because they're slower and it makes it easier. So that just kind of helps level the playing field a little bit. For horse mood, again, this affects your horse's speed. So we do this mostly to make sure scores are completely fair. Because again, Hunter and Equitation rounds are a lot easier with a slower horse. So you'll lose 0 points if your horse is fully happy, or if it's above half full. So it doesn't doesn't need to be at full happiness, but it needs to be above half. You'll lose 3 points if it is half full. So that would be like the yellow. We did these based on the faces, but I guess that's kind of obsolete now. Anyway, and then if your horse is completely unhappy with an empty bar or below half full, it would be -5 points from your final score. And then for breed scoring, we can go to our website. Hunter and Equitation use the same suitability scores for all of the breeds because they're pretty similar disciplines, but we may eventually, with the release of more horses, have separate ones, but these are just the current breeds we have to work with. So of course this gets averaged into your score as well. And that's all pretty self-explanatory. So moving on to the score sheet now that we have gone over all of this. This is an actual score sheet, I believe, from the Sweetheart Cup that was a couple months ago. So this is what the judges are seeing during your round. We have a formula in this score column that will automatically calculate your final score for us. That's something that we set up before competition so that we can very easily um, get your score and announce it right after your round. And as you'll see here, most of the time our scores are in whole numbers, but every once in a while, typically I do this when I judge. If I don't believe that, like for example, this rider right here, I didn't believe that they quite deserved a 7, but I also didn't believe that they deserved quite an 8 for their jump. So I gave them a 7.5. Sometimes that will happen. But we do that also to try and avoid ties as well. But they do happen sometimes, as you can see here. Um, so you can see from this score sheet that this rider here left out or added a stride where they were not supposed to. So they got a stride score of 6, but everyone else got it. So they received 10s. For level and mood, those things get added together. So if you have any mood errors, like we had talked about here, so if someone, for example, had a horse that was fully unhappy and it was also level 13, that would leave them with 5 points in this category, and that gets subtracted from your final score. Does anyone have any questions about the score sheet? You can just let me know in the clinic chat before we move on from here. We can definitely come back, but I just want to make sure I address any questions at this point. Okay. And if you guys have any questions at any point during, feel free to put them in the clinic chat. I've got it up on my phone so I can see. And if there are questions that we need to come back to this for, we can definitely do that as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on just so we don't run out of time here. There is a lot still to cover. These are our special classes. So Hunter Derby, most of you I'm sure are familiar with this, but there is a classic round and then a handy round. So the classic round is normally ridden similarly to a regular hunter round. So the one difference here, because for regular hunter rounds, typically you want to avoid inside turns. For a classic, for the Hunter Derby, you're more than welcome to do inside turns if you would like to. they're not expected, and you may actually, if you decide to take an inside turn and are not able to jump it as well as you would have without the inside turn, it may cause you to lose points. But if you're able to execute it well, um, then it will actually work positively for you. So just be careful about doing inside turns for classic rounds for sure. Trot jumps and rollbacks are really not that common in classic rounds, but sometimes we will include them. And then for Hunter Derby over fences classes, you do not need to do a circle. You are more than welcome to do one if you feel like that is what will set you up best for your jump, but you're not judged on them. So they will not work towards you positively or negatively. Um, for the handy, only the top 12 riders from the classic will qualify. So that all depends again on the scores for the day. I know some servers will do anyone who scores above a certain score will move on, but we find that this is a little bit faster because there's only normally 8 places at our rated shows anyway. So that would mean that we just need our top 8 from this. So it helps make things faster. For the handy, inside turns are expected for this. The courses are written with the intention of having some inside turns included. Most of the inside turns that we will include in our courses are going to be pretty obvious ones. You don't need to try and make every turn an inside turn, but if you're able to comfortably ride it and jump the fence well by doing an inside turn, then we would say definitely do the inside turn. Trot jumps and rollbacks are very commonly seen in the Hunter Derby. We may also ask for halts after fences as well. Um, Circles, again, not required. And for your overall placings, we will add the classic and the handy scores together to get your final score. So if you do not so great in the classic, but you really, do a wonderful job on your handy round, then you may actually have the ability to move up in your placings from the classic round. Um, yeah, and I think that's everything. Yep. Okay, and then moving on to metal. Again, inside turns are expected here. The course is written with some inside turns in mind. Um, Trot jumps and rollbacks are very common for metal. It's very similar to a handy round. In real life, there are there are some pretty big differences, but in Star Stable, it's kind of hard for us to include all of them. So I normally always tell people that they are basically the same class in Star Stable, at least for tip. Um, and then circles are required if they're necessary, and I will show you guys because we get a lot of questions about this as well. Under our judging tab on our website, we have a page called Arena Diagrams, and at the top we have Dressage Arena Diagrams. But if you scroll down, you can see the diagrams of our arenas that we normally host hunter shows in. And the way to look at these is if the number for opening circles, if the number for your first fence has a dot here, and you are coming in through the in gate that corresponds with the color of that dot, then you should do an opening circle. So if I'm coming in from like the main in gate at Golden Leaf Stables, and my first jump on preset A is going to be um, this one stone single up by the top of the arena, I would not need to do a circle at that point. You could just approach it as usual without a circle. Of course, you're welcome to do one if you feel it's necessary, but you don't have to. So that's where you can find all of that, and we have diagrams for all of our arenas here. All right, so we are now going to move on to under saddle. This should go a little bit quicker, and then we will get right to our mock flat class. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the clinic chat before we move on. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm just gonna keep moving, just so again we don't run out of time. And if I do see a question pop up, I'll make sure we address it before we get too far into this. Um, so for our under saddle classes, judge positioning, we typically will have them one at each end of the arena. That we found sort of helps keep people from missing things. Um, and what the judges are responsible for, just to make sure that no one gets deductions twice for the same mistake, is judges have to have our score sheet, which I will show you in a second, open the entire time that they are judging, so that if they see a rider make a mistake, they can see the other judge put in the points for that and avoid doing duplicate scores that way. Um, we may occasionally need to run up to or through riders flat classes, as I'm sure every one of you has every one of you who has participated in one knows. They are very chaotic and things happen quickly, and that's just what we have to do to make sure that we're not missing anything. We, of course, want to be fair to everyone and try to not miss things as much as possible. But just like real life, the judges are only human and they do occasionally miss things, or things may look different on your screen than they do on the judge's screen. That's the fun thing about screen delay, which we'll get into when we do our little mock flat class in a couple minutes. So for our basic scoring system for under saddle classes, and I know this clinic is not about Western things, but this is the general system that we use for scoring all of our flat classes um, because they go by mistake, and these happen in all of our flat classes. So Oh, and I should mention for under saddle classes, you generally want to get the lowest score possible, so we will add points on for errors that are made. So all of the like breed score, all of that stuff is it will be added to your score instead of subtracted. So if you happen to do an incorrect gait, this used to be a much lower penalty, but after Star Stable's update, where they made it so that your horse keeps going the same speed until you manually change it, it is much harder to make the mistake of getting an incorrect gait. So that is now a 10-point deduction if you do happen to pick up an incorrect gait. If you are clumping or cutting off another rider, that will be 5 points. For clumping, that goes for everyone in the clump. So even if someone cuts you off in a flat class and you were in the right, like you had perfect spacing and this person just came and cut you off, it is still your responsibility to go and find your own space after that happens. We will not, so in that scenario, if you were spread out perfectly on the rail and someone came and cut you off and now you're in a clump, um, if you stay in that clump, both you and the rider who cut you off will receive 5 points, but the rider who cut you off will also receive an additional 5 points for cutting you off and causing the clump. Um, if we see a rider cut someone else off, and then the rider who was cut off goes and finds their own space, you will not get any penalties for that. Of course, you can't control the other people in the arena, but you can control how you react to things. So if someone cuts you off, then you need to just try and find your own space as soon as possible, and you will not get any deductions for that. Small circles. So typically what's known as a curl in Star Stable Dressage. You want to avoid doing those. They are incredibly inconvenient for the people behind you in a flat class. And typically, even in real life, when you do a circle in a flat class, you don't want it to be teeny tiny. You want it to be as big as you can, use all the space you have, and you want to try and find a spot on the rail again after you do that circle. So you will get 3 points for that. If you're using circles incorrectly, so if you're circling when you don't need to, if you're cutting across the arena when you don't need to, um, then that would be 2 points. And then for late transition, that would be 1 point. Then for lineup penalties, this is something that I will point out when we do our mock flat class in a little bit. But what we see a lot is riders who change direction to come into the lineup. This will probably be easier to explain in game. But what that means is you want to make sure that you are not, if you are um, past where the lineup is, um, you want to make sure that you're not like turning around and going back the other direction to get into the lineup. You want to just continue around the arena until you can make that turn into the lineup without changing direction. And again, I'll show you guys an example of that in game because it's kind of hard to understand just having it described to you. If you get into the lineup and you are too close to another rider, that will be 3 points. And then if you move after you halt, that would be 2 points. So generally, the idea is that you want to try and find your own space, make sure you're kind of um, keep looking around as you're coming into the lineup. So you make sure you're not cutting anyone off, getting too close to anyone. And then when you halt, even if you're not totally straight, just stop moving. You won't get any points off for being crooked in the lineup or anything like that. But you will get points off if you move after you halt. So even if you're really crooked, just stay like that. And then we do typically have ties in undersaddle classes. And they're normally broken by the rider who has the highest level and happiest horse, and then who also meets the dress code best. If it's still a tie after that, then we will award the tie, but that typically does not happen. Again, same, gosh, I did this again. Um, Same chart and everything for horse level and horse mood. It's just instead of subtracting it from your score, it gets added to your score because under saddle is lowest score wins. Or sorry, yes, lowest score wins. Yeah, that's correct. And then we use the same chart for breed suitability. Um, and this is an example of a score sheet for an under saddle class. So the blacked out part here is where all of the riders' star stable names would be. We typically judge with 2 judges, so we will have one column for each of them. We have a column for the horse level and mood errors, just like over fences, as well as for the breed score. Um, Dress code, it is counted by points. So obviously 2 points per dress code error, and that gets added to your score as well. Um, and it goes to the rider with the lowest number of total points. So this one ended up being really nice and pretty, and it was really easy to award all the placings because no one in the top 8 had the same amount of points. But for example, with this this rider or these 2 riders right here, who both had a total of 21 points. This rider's horse was farther away from level 15, so this, in a tie situation, the tie would be awarded to the rider with fewer points in the horse level and mood column. So hopefully that makes sense. For pleasure classes, and we'll get to this in a second, but for pleasure classes, there's 2 additional columns, and we do write down which gate you are going. For go as you please, we'll write it down for each direction, because you are expected to go at the same gate. Whichever gate you choose for go as you please, you should do it both directions. You will not be placed if you choose 2 different gates. So if you go one direction at the canter and you go the other direction at the trot, then you are automatically out of the placing, because that is a big no-no. So these are our special undersaddle classes. So for equitation on the flat, it's the same judging guidelines as a normal flat class. So the guidelines that we just went over. Same competition format. So it's just one round. We'll have you guys change directions at least once. Show most of the gate. For equitation on the flat, the thing that is different is you are very frequently asked to halt, reverse, or enter the lineup at a gate other than a walk. So occasionally we will have riders trot into the lineup, which I'm sure you can imagine is more difficult than walking, especially when it comes to those lineup penalties. We are a little more lenient when we ask you to trot into the arena with lineup penalties, but they do still exist. Um, and for pleasure, same as a normal flat class, except these are 3 rounds. So it's 3 different classes, walk, trot, canter, and then walk, go as you please. And as I mentioned before, for walk, go as you please, you want to make sure you are doing the same gate for both directions. So if you choose to go at a trot for your first gate, then that should be your second gate as well. That's a mistake that we do see pretty commonly. And as I mentioned again, that will cause you to just automatically not be placed. For dress code, I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with this section of the website, but there are 2 different dress codes for equitation and hunter divisions. The main difference there is the allowed bridles for horses and the allowed show coat colors for riders. So for equitation, only navy, brown, gray, or black show coats are allowed. Whereas for hunters, you can use green, navy, brown, gray, maroon, or black. Um, and then, of course, for the hunter derby, you would need to wear a shad belly. So that is those like longer, sort of, some people know them as like the dressage style coats. Oh boy, it looks like my star stable cut out. I'll need to log back in just a second. Promise we're almost done. It's just a lot of information. And then, of course, for hunters, and I believe it's the same for equitation, you are allowed to wear black or brown paddock boots if you have a junior rider. Um, and then, so moving on to horses, like I mentioned, you can only use plain and flash nosebands for equitation. When it comes to hunters, you must use a plain noseband. You cannot use the flash. You will get dress code errors for using the flash noseband. So again, this is all on our website. I believe we are almost done here. And yes, so shad bellies are required for Hunter Derby. And it'll be 2 points subtracted from your score for each dress code flat class. Just put them in the clinic chat and I'll wait for a second, just so you guys have time to type. You know what, while you guys are typing, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second and log back into Star Stable. Yeah, I can absolutely show you guys a trot jump. The flat will, as soon as I'm logged back in, we can go ahead and get started with the flat. And for those of you who were not here at the very beginning when I explained how that is going to work, we will be, instead of me giving you guys scores and kind of reading those out at the end, just to help you guys out a little bit, I'm going to be just talking out loud and saying which errors I'm seeing during so that you guys can adjust accordingly. Because I think that that is a little more helpful. So if you're too close to another rider, like you'll be able to know because it won't look like quite like that on your screen. Um, okay. And yeah, we are on night sprinkles, and we'll probably be getting started with the flat momentarily. Um, you're more than welcome, because it's not like a an actual like flat class that I'm judging. You're more than welcome to jump in during. Um, if you guys, if any of you don't want to, because again, I will be kind of calling people out and saying like, hey, you're too close to this rider. If no one, like if anyone wants to not participate in that, you guys are more than welcome to just stand on the outside of the arena and watch. And it's totally fine if your horse is not maxed. Yeah, that doesn't matter at all. This is more just to help you guys get a feel for like spacing in flat classes, because I think that that's like a um, really big thing. Is figuring out like exactly how close you are to someone else on the judge's screen with screen delay. So those of you who are participating in the flat class, and if you guys have questions, again, put them in the clinic chat. I'm looking right at it. So, but for those of you who do not have questions, feel free to go ahead and head into the arena. And you guys can spread out, tracking to the left. And just as a refresher for those of you who might not know, when we say enter the arena tracking left, that means that if you were starting in the center of the arena and heading out towards the rail, you would turn to the left once you get on the rail. So it's kind of confusing because you actually need to, when you're coming in the in gate, you need to go to your right. So it's always like the opposite. Um, and we are at Golden Leaf Stables. All right, so even now, I'd say that probably on the Palomino Arabian, you're a little bit close in front of that chestnut paint. So I would say probably try and be a little farther away from each other than that. We do have a smaller class that will help hopefully too. Um, and yeah, I can show if anyone wants a demonstration, or anyone else wants a demonstration of a trot jump or of a hunter circle, like an opening or closing circle. I'm more than happy to do that at the end. All right, so when we start our flat classes, you will hear the announcer say, riders, this is your class. You are now being judged at the walk. Yeah, so I'd almost say maybe try and start thinking about making a circle on the chestnut paint there, just because you are getting a little close to the person in front of you, and make sure you're not doing small circles because you will get some points off for that as well. And what I mean when I say that is you don't want to, for those of you who can see me in the center of the arena, you don't want to do a circle like this. You don't want to do a teeny tiny little circle. Ideally, what you should do is you should come off the rail, use your camera to look around the arena, and make a little bit bigger of a circle. So that can be a third of the arena, half of the arena. You can even get on the quarter line, which is what I am cantering around on now. And the quarter line basically just means if you were to divide the arena into quarters, this would be kind of that inner quarter from the outside rail. All right. Riders, please demonstrate the trot. All trot. That was good. I didn't see anybody super late on that, except on the white Arabian with the white saddle pad down here. Just a little bit behind on that, but again, that's only 1 point, so not that big of a deal to miss. Nice use of the quarter line for sure. On the gray paint with the black polo on, I would say maybe start thinking about making a circle. You're getting a little close to the Palomino Arabian in front of you. Yeah, and you can even make your circle bigger than that. So I'm sure you kind of noticed the person behind you got a little bit cut off by that circle. So the goal of these bigger circles is so that you give yourself more time to come off the rail and get yourself away from people and look for another space on the rail. So don't be afraid to make those big circles. Yeah, and on the white English Thoroughbred with the black saddle pad down here, that was pretty nice. Your first circle was really nice. The second one was a little bit small. So just make sure you're making those nice and big. And riders, please demonstrate the canter. All canter. Very nice. Nice. I didn't see anybody too late on that at all. On the Bay Arabian, start thinking about trying to make a circle. You're getting a little close to the gray paint in front of you. Very nice. Yeah, so you've got two options when you get close to the person in front of you. You can either make that circle, or you can go ahead and hop on the quarter line as long as you're not cutting anyone off. I would definitely say make sure that you are looking before you make those turns because on the white Thoroughbred and gray paint here, you guys are a little bit close together. I think I'd probably consider that a clump. So make sure you guys are trying to find your own space there. On the Bay Thoroughbred, the circle was a little small and you did cut off the person behind you. So when I say make these circles big, I mean like really big. Like don't be afraid to make it like half the arena or a third of the arena. And just be careful on the Bay Fin Horse and Chestnut Paint over here that you guys aren't running through each other. Nice. You guys are doing a really good job making your own space. Riders, please walk. All walk. Very nice. That was a good choice there on the white thoroughbred. You kind of got yourself in a difficult position on the rail there, but I like how you dealt with it. That was really good. Make sure when you guys are on the quarter line that you're not too close to the rail. On the Bay Arabian, you're a little too close to the outside rail, but let's see. Yeah, that's perfect. So just make sure you're given like a lot of space. Perfect. Yeah, you guys are doing really nicely with this. I'm going to join in the flat class for just a second, just to show you guys what I mean about circles. I'm going to do it at a canter just so it doesn't take so long. But say I got myself right in behind Sarah here on the 𝗪𝗁 𝗪𝗲. So I'm way too close to her, and imagine that there's someone on the inside that's preventing me from going to the quarter line. So what I would want to do then is I would want to make a big circle, and again, I'm doing it at a canter just so it's faster. I'm literally just going to cut the arena in half and then end up on the quarter line here. And I just realized, oh no, I might have cut someone off. So then you can adjust from there, but you want to make sure that you're not doing teeny tiny little circles. Always make them as big as possible. Use all of the space that you have. Nice adjustment there on the chestnut paint. That's something that you will actually, I personally have taken points that I've given to people, and again, lowest score wins, so this is a good thing. I will take points away that I've given to people for errors that they make by making good decisions like that, by like trying to find their own space, and especially if I see you notice that someone is about to cut you off and take action before that happens. That is a really, really good thing to see. And you may actually get forgiven for some mistakes that you've made if you do that. All right. And the most chaotic part that everyone hates. Riders, please demonstrate the extended canter. Very nice. I always feel evil asking for this because it's really hard, but nice. Oh yeah, we got a couple clumps going on. Yeah, so one of you guys on the white thoroughbred or chestnut paint here could think about making a circle maybe. Also on the gray paint and 𝗪𝗁 𝗪𝗲, a circle might be a good decision. You want to make these really big, or even get on the quarter line if you can, because it is really hard to make a good circle at the extended canter. All right, riders, please canter, all canter. I am so sorry about all of that. Those are always hard. Nice. Good job. That was nice on the Bay thoroughbred over here. That was a really good decision, and I probably would not have given you any points for that because you looked and saw that someone else was already making a circle.
Okay, everybody. I do have to leave. I do have to go to my club's practice. I'm actually quite late as it is, so I apologize for the abrupt end to the stream. Thank you so much to SSO TIP for hosting this clinic and the mock flat class at the end. It was very informative. And I will definitely be sure to use this video as reference for the future. Thank you